Roger Ebert wrote for Chicago Sun-Times. I'm John Stark from Mac. Guy. What's changed? Like, I'm Tomato Meter approved. We started a Blind Film Critic Society. We're trying to make that happen and try to get more people engaged in talking about film and also talking about audio description and putting that out there as a thing because everybody else is just trying to be really nice about it. So I feel like you also need a wrecking ball from time to time. I've noticed that the tomato meter has changed a little bit in some ways with how studios approach maybe could help the wider market in terms of audio description and accessibility if somebody has to create something. I had an interaction with a director for a film, and I posted a review on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a film that has no known audio description, and the producer that contacted me didn't challenge me on that. Didn't say, "Oh, we have a track. Let me give that to you." But he was like, "It sounds like would you review the film if we made audio description for it?" I was like, "Of course. That's the whole point." Haven't heard back. Haven't heard back. But yeah, I lowered their RT score because it hadn't been reviewed by that many people. But
Wow.
then on the other hand, Lionsgate went out of their way. I was in like a giant chain letter full of 7, 8 different people trying to get me audio description. I don't know. It's different. I have a couple films that are promising me audio description. I'm working with Sony Pictures Classics right now because it didn't give me audio description on something that I wanted. And I had requested it, and I'm trying to be like, so do you want me to release my review without the audio description or with it? Please respond. What's the goal here? So just trying to give you some topics. I feel like if I can just say a couple of things ahead of time, you can where I'm at. I definitely would love to mention the Blind Film Critic Society. I always love to shout
Okay.
out Lee and Alex at any point that I can because I think it's important to spread the love of whoever else. And I don't know whoever else
Darker.
is out there, but if I ever found anybody else, I would rope them in.
Welcome to the ADNA Presents. Today we're very honored to have John Stark joining us again on this podcast. He is now a part of the Blind Film Critic Society. He's also a Rotten Tomatoes reviewer, and it's so exciting to see what he's doing with Mac the Movie Guy. So with over 225 titles this year alone so far, last year he said he had over 450. We're definitely on track here. So thanks for joining us, John, and let's get started here. One of the things that I really was excited to talk with you about is a post that you made on our Facebook group when you mentioned that you were looking to consolidate a lot of the names of the credits of the audio description professionals. And that's something that we do on the ADNA Presents. So it was exciting to see that that's being amplified as well and being able to see all the work that you're getting done in connecting production to audio description, which is part of our mission for quite a while. So let's jump in. I usually ask what you love about audio description, but I think I want to ask a two-part question. The first part is, can you tell us about the Blind Film Critic Society? And also tell us about Rotten Tomatoes. You choose which one you want to start with, and let's go from there.
About a little over a year ago, I started trying to get a little bit more credited as a film critic. I've been doing the blog and YouTube thing for a while now as a blind film critic, and I sought sort of accreditation and recognition from the industry. So I started jumping into a couple of critics organizations, including Critics Association of Central Florida, Gallica, the LGBTQ Film Journalists Association, and I'm a member of Film Independent, Hollywood Creative Alliance, Online Film and Television Association, as whatever I can join it, Independent Film Critics of America. And then I started up Blind Film Critic Society because there isn't even like a disabled film critics society. It's this sort of really underrepresented group, and I wanted to try to inspire people. It was based off of the idea that sort of the Razzie Awards, really, they just started in some dude's living room. I don't think many people know that, but that's the history of the Razzie Awards. And now they have like full on ceremonies every year, and people like look forward to knowing like what film is named the worst film of the year. I'm like, if they can start in the living room and then grow into whatever, I feel like we can just start out as me and the Darkroom Boys, Alex Howard, Pugsley, the only three that I know of currently, and go from there. I tried to reach out to, there was a blind film critic that existed for about a couple years in like the mid 2010s. He hasn't reviewed anything since I think 2017, but he's not dead. And I tried reaching out to him and I never got a response. I just think he gave up on movies or did something else with his life. I have no idea. But yeah, so the three of us got together and we came up with a set of rules and categories and everything and put that together, and we figured out like what the bare minimum was. And we wanted it to be low because it's tough to get people to talk and write about film. So what some other groups wouldn't necessarily take, which is even something as simple as like a letterbox account, 25 films released in 2025, and you have to post about it on a way that is visible to the world, not just like friends only settings.
Hmm.
Like everybody has to be able to see you talking about a film and your experience with audio description, and that's the idea. Like they have to know that you're blind or low vision and that you use accessibility or should have used accessibility, I guess, if it was a film or television series or something that didn't have.
Wanted
Yeah,
to.
you wanted to use accessibility, but it wasn't there, or the theater had it broken or something, and you still reviewed
Oh.
the film anyway. And we have a rule that only films that have audio description in existence can be nominated, even if we didn't see it with audio description. A lot of my screeners don't have audio description. So if I got an advanced screener for a movie and Alex or Lee saw it in theaters, then somebody saw it with audio descriptions and it exists. Somebody made the audio description. So that's all. We just don't honor films that have no accessibility. That's really the only eligibility requirement, and also to have been released in the calendar year, whether it's on streaming or in theaters. And we're hoping to get new members. Alex says we have at least one who is working on getting to that 25 to be able to vote, and hopefully it'll continue to grow. We have a lot of people who post on social anyway, and they talk about the things that they love. So if we can just get them to do that outside of a Facebook group or outside of their own Facebook walls and stuff like that, then we might have something going. But everybody has to, some people may want to write it down, some people may want to put it on a TikTok video, whatever it is. We're open to it, but it has to be so that the world can see it, because part of this is being out there so that everybody knows we're doing it, so that we need
Yeah.
this, spreading the word about it. So from there, after that, I I was forced into the tomato meter thing. I actually was really surprised I got approved. I figured it was like a gamble. They have a thing that they didn't used to have before where they are courting underrepresented voices, and they don't have a blind film critic. And
Hmm.
one of the organizations I was in has moved the goalposts a little bit in terms of retaining membership. I had to either meet like viewership subscriber standards or get Tomato Meter approved. And then it wouldn't matter what my subscriber slash viewership was. So I applied, and I was surprised to find out that I got accepted onto the Tomato Meter. And that's been an interesting journey, that and the accessibility and trying to work around. There were a couple of kinks in the beginning with how I have to submit reviews, but I think we worked around everything. They've managed to fix the couple of glitches that I had, and now I'm just back cataloging my reviews. Sometimes I mention the audio description in my pull quote, sometimes not. I don't want it to be a shtick where like every single thing that I do is directly related to the audio description of a film in my pull quote, but I do and have mentioned audio description in my pull quote. So I think that'll be something that I only have, I don't know, 25 reviews or something that I've managed to do. It's a process of
Yeah.
putting up so far, but once I get to the 1,000 or 2,000 films that I've reviewed, there will be a smattering of ones that mention audio description or the need for audio description if the film lacks it. I think that's important, and it's changing my interaction with studios because they want that tomato meter. And yeah, it's been a short time, and I'm interested to see how this next awards season works out for me too, because a lot of those awards screeners I didn't get. So I want to know how the studios interact with me going forward. And if I can help create audio description, if I can have interactions with producers and directors about their independent films that they didn't make audio description for, so that way they're aware of it and maybe they think about it for their next film. Anything like that, I think is positive. So those are the kind of conversations I want to have. So that's the journey thus far. That's a really long answer.
It's a great answer. And seeing how you've been able to get that what's in it for them in the sense of the producers being motivated to get those tomato meters, that is something that happened with the SAG Awards. That once SAG Awards made the requirement that audio description for the screeners, for the voting membership, to be able to vote for the SAG Award nominees on the screeners, that became a motivator. And everyone had enough notice, so it wasn't going to be a surprise. There was a lot of lead time, but that actually changed the trajectory, that producers became aware of it. And that's what you and Lee and Alex are doing with your initiatives. And it's so great how it's tethered to this existing, let's call it establishment, that being forced into this Rotten Tomatoes, as you put it. And I know how much work you put in. This is not you being drug along.
Yeah.
This is something that you obviously have been working on, I think even longer than a year. That by you being a part of Rotten Tomatoes, that gives you access, and it also gets people motivated to get done what needs to happen in audio description. There's one thing that came up during this conversation that I wanted to ask you specifically about, because I've noticed in all of your reviews, and you said this, you don't exclusively focus on audio description, that you are a blind film critic. You're not an audio description critic. You include audio description, and when you grumble about it not being there or about the quality being low, that is a part of the review. But it is all about supporting the story being told, and it's not exclusively audio description. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach films? And I'm sure every film is going to be different, but is there something that you think about in your reviews that, I guess it includes audio description, but it's not about audio description, but it is, but it's not?
Yeah, every audio description track is different too. I jumped into a world where it felt like everybody's following a guidebook that was written like 30 years ago for audio description, and there are a lot of rules and stuff. I don't think one size fits all in terms of audio description. Not there's one narrator doesn't fit all, one writer doesn't fit all. Some people are actually better at things, and when the industry is at this impasse where AI is like on the horizon and studios are seeing a cheaper alternative, I think being realistic about the strengths of audio description and the strengths of individuals and how they can best complement a project are the kind of things that studios really need to start focusing on if they want to retain actual human beings, especially something that narrators should really, as voice talent, have to start thinking about is, am I doing a quality project? Because if I'm not doing a quality project and I'm just supporting something that is lowering the status quo, that could be pushing us close to the danger zone of everything becoming text to speech. So it's already utilized, and they're already trying to find more and more ways of utilizing it and finding guidelines for trying to ask industry professionals of, okay, so if we have to do text to speech, what's the baseline? What do we have to do? Let's make sure to quality check it at least and don't just send it out into the world. But like really basic things. But the fact that we're starting to have that conversation means on the other end, you really have to step up your game. It's like with movie theaters, like they're facing these streaming services. So they're trying to figure out ways of having to change the way that the theater experience is to try to keep people coming to theaters so they don't just completely disappear as an industry. If they were very obstinate about it, they would just collapse and fall apart. And it may still happen, but at least for the time being, they can stretch it out as long as possible. So when I get a film with an audio description track, I have absolutely heard films and listened to them, and the best thing about that film is the audio description track. I have had some truly awful films this year that had some amazing audio description tracks where I was like, oh, this audio description track is great. This movie is terrible. And I think that's interesting to point out in the review where I'm like, I have no problems with this audio description track it actually made the film sort of watchable because I was focused on the track being good and the movie is awful. But the flip side of that can be true also, where you watch a film and you feel like the film would be good, but the audio description track is inadequate, and you're like, what just happened? I don't know what just happened. What was that? And you're like, I don't know what that was. Are we not going to reference it? We're not going to talk about it? Okay, audio description is not going to mention whatever that was. Got it. We're moving on. And there's that part of it too. I think the majority of the audio description track, though, is always in the middle, and we don't have to have strong reactions to it. There are a lot of people who just make really just solid audio description. It's nothing to necessarily like jump out of your seat over, but it's very efficient. It's a very solid track. It supports the film well. The narrator choice was a good one, and I do hear a lot of that. So I don't feel the need to overly critique something that is just fine for what it is. I love praising something that I think that goes above and beyond. I love talking about something where I feel like it has missed the mark in terms of audio description, but at the core of it, I still have to talk about the movie. People click on these things to figure out what I also thought about the movie. They're not there specifically just to hear what I thought about the audio description track unless they wrote it. That's the only that's the only people who are doing that are the ones who worked on it. But everyone else is, oh, what does he think about the new War of the Worlds movie? Not a lot. So that's what people find out is when they click on these things is I'm also trying to tell them, is it even worth watching? Or a great audio description track, bad movie. So it's an audio description track that will sadly never really truly be appreciated because nobody should really be watching. But it's a weird dynamic. And I think sometimes I talk about the audio description tracks more. Sometimes I talk about them less. But yeah, they're definitely not the focus. The movie has to always, or the TV show always has to be the focus because that's what triggered the creation of the audio description. That's why people are there is initially to watch the film or television series. Otherwise, we would just all be listening to audio description tracks without a film, which would be really weird if there was no, if we were all true audio description junkies, we would just listen to like audio description tracks with no context. And
Yeah.
while it
Well,
sounds interesting, I have no idea. I don't think anybody wants to do that. So,
to your point, and also I think the way I phrased the question is it is called the Blind Film Critic Society. It's not the Blind Audio Description Critic Society.
yes.
That it is about the film. And what I love about what you're doing with this is that you're publicizing the end user experience in all its experiences, whether it's at the movie theater or a streaming service. And if we could go back to a few things that you just said, I think about the text to speech, that there are performers in audio description who you cannot tell the difference between a flat text to speech and a human, that there is absolutely no connection to what's happening. And in all of our interviews here, we've always focused on the immersive experience of our audience in storytelling. And whether it's a text to speech or a really poorly performed audio description performance, that the end user experience still suffers. And so as text to speech gets better and as the watering down of the performance go in the human side, that those two things are going to be equal. So the fact that you're publicizing this makes such a difference. One of the things that I also noticed was you did reference studios, and I find it interesting that as more studios, and let's say the actual film production companies themselves, let's be clear about that, if they owned the audio description, and this is an argument that I make in my book, that if they owned the audio description and not the distributors, that there is stakes there, that they are the ones that are most invested in the storytelling, in the vision of the film, the soul of the film. And by them owning the audio description, that fixes so many problems. And it also addresses the gaps. One of the things that this interview is happening is that you were saying, hey, I need to know who did what. There's been times before where the performer of the audio description is praised, but the writer doesn't get credit because the writer isn't credited, or vice versa. The writing is so bad, but the performer is associated with it. I've been doing this for 10 years and I still am. Roy, why did you write that? I'm like, I didn't. I
Yeah.
read a script. I'm a performer.
There's now a disturbing trend where no one is credited. And that pisses me off. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't know who these audio description companies are that are trying to remove their names, but I can't even, it's so unspeakable because it seems like I've heard some of the, what I would call like the bottom of the barrel audio description companies seem to get credited. I don't know what company out there is allowing themselves to go uncredited at the end of projects, but it's maddening because then I have no reference. I don't know who made this. It's like walking into a grocery store and and just being handed food. And who made, I don't know. What brand is this? I don't know. Is it store brand? I don't know. Like, why would I do that? Why would I eat that? I have nobody to even complain
Mhm.
to. Sometimes it's not even bad. Like I had She Rides Shotgun from Lionsgate. I stayed all the way through the end. There was no credit at the end of that. Nobody took
Mm.
credit for She Rides Shotgun, and there was nothing wrong with that track. Not a single damn thing was wrong with that track. It was a perfectly fine track, but yet not a narrator, not a company. And I know we're trying to expand. Like you got an actual quality control person for Last of Us. That's amazing. We are breaking into and trying to expand credits. I would love for Deluxe to start crediting writers. That would be amazing. I think they have the power to be able to push that button and say, we're Deluxe and we have writers. That would be great because it's always Deluxe and the narrator, Deluxe and the narrator, Deluxe and the narrator. It's like Deluxe has to have writers. I have yet to hear them credit a writer. I know sometimes we find out later on through the grapevine or somebody submits it to the ADNA and says, I did this film. But I have yet to hear an actual ending to a film where it says
Mm.
Deluxe written by and narrated by. And that would be amazing because they work for everybody. They make tracks all over the place. And I can't imagine that everybody is saying no to them. It doesn't make any sense. And I feel like I used to work in movie theaters. Deluxe has been doing stuff for Hollywood in terms of all sorts of weird production angles outside of audio description for years. I used to see
Yeah.
Deluxe on things when I was working in projection booths all the time, and they would be at like at the end of films. I don't know if they work on like creating the print or the final sound. I don't know what all they do, but Deluxe, I've seen Deluxe working on films since I started working in movie theaters when I was 16, and I'm 42.
Mm.
Deluxe is super established as a company, as an entity, and I feel like they have the connections. I don't want to call it Deluxe. I love Deluxe. I think the work that they do is good. I would just love to know who their writers are. But I would love to know who these people are so that I can, because now these things are connected to Rotten Tomatoes, so somebody can actually connect. They can click on it and they can actually see, and then they go to my website and I have listed their audio description done by, written by, narrated by. Right now, some of them are just blank because I don't.
Like,
It's like it's waiting to be filled, and some of it is just on my end too. Like I have streaming services that are on that feature where it just pushes you into the next thing immediately, so I just never get to the end credits. But yeah, I would just love to know, and if people would submit more credits to you, the ADNA. I feel weird about credits in general, about reaching out because I don't have contacts at every company. Like I love Media Access Group. I think the work that they do is great. No one from Media Access has ever reached out to me the same way that I've had contact with some other studios. So trying to figure out who did what at Media Access, and they do a lot of audio description, and so does Pixelogic, 360, 3Play, Post House, just a whole bunch of other companies. I don't know all these people, so I can't reach out to all these companies individually and say who did this. So your website is great for that if people use it. But even on your website, I search for titles and it doesn't exist because nobody submitted it. I get it that there's still, I know that there are contracts and clauses, but we get into a nebulous system again of there are contracts and clauses that some people have that other people don't have. So why do these companies, if it was a hard and fast rule for some companies, then for if Warner Brothers has a rule that says no, anytime you ever work with us, this is our flat thing for every company we ever work with. But at the end of it, you'll always hear different credits and different companies, and it'll be like production company, writer, narrator, production company, narrator, production company, writer, narrator, quality control. I mean, it's a whole bunch of different things. So obviously they're open to different interpretations. these people deserve to be credited. It's real work that they're doing, and it's weird that IMDb doesn't have them, and I don't know why they wouldn't want their work out there. I don't know why they don't want people to know who they are. Some people are doing great work, and it's just this unsung hero type stuff. And I would love to know who these people are, because it's accessibility and you're providing it for a community that needs it. And you seem to be doing a really good job of putting time and energy into it. So help me help you.
And to your point, there's changes that are happening just in the last few months that you've begun the Blind Film Critic Society. In your examples with the tomato meter, that there is now a built-in cultural change of motivation to get this done, and to also not only get it done, because I totally recognize the quantity issue that films need to have audio description. But what we're addressing here, and what we've been addressing, is that immersive experience and how that is crafted. And a great way to do that is to name the names. And this mutual support here when it comes to crediting, it's gonna help the production out. It's gonna get more seats. It's gonna get more people to buy the film. Blind people have friends and family. It's like there's so many great angles here. There's a real loyalty that can be built. And you're making this change simply by bringing the awareness of audio description. Not only audio description, as you've said, but also the film reviews. And I want to catch myself. Just then, I pivoted to audio description. We've been focusing on that for 90% of the time here in this conversation. Right. What I'd love to know is, when it comes to your ability to see hundreds of films in a year, 6,000 every year, it seems, what is the thing that you've been doing this for what, 26 years now? What do you love about movies? What keeps you coming back? What is it about being a critic that lights you up and that drives you so much? I know, another cliffhanger. Tune in next time.